Nate Frazier is taking this personally. Welcome into another Georgia running back conversation. ESPN released a list of the college football top 25 teams, what their biggest strength and what their biggest weakness is. When you scroll down and you look at Georgia, they tabbed the running back room to be the weakest link of this 2025 Georgia Bulldogs team. It's certainly a room that I've heard a lot of concerns from insiders, from people around the program, from fans, kind of everybody. Everyone's worried. What happens if something happens to Nate Frazier, the guy who's taking this personally? There's not much experience behind him. There's a lot of injuries behind him. But Frazier saw ESPN making that list. He put on his Instagram story, expletive, personal on my mama, right? So I think it's funny. It kind of goes to show you his personality. I've gotten to talk to Nate, and look, he loves Georgia, and he really, really, really wants to be the next great running back for the University of Georgia. Ryan Curley from Dawg posts. Nate's taking it personally. I actually kind of found something interesting about this, and in a minute here, I'll read what Mark Schlabach from ESPN. They had a few college football reporters build this story, and Schlabach is the one been covering Georgia for a long time, at least in some capacity, and he was the one that wrote the little blurb about the Georgia Bulldogs. What I find interesting about that is just a few months ago, right before the end of the college football season, maybe it was right after, but I think it was right before, he was the one that tabbed Nate Frazier a way too early Heisman candidate for the 2025 season. So I do think that it's interesting. This either goes to show that Schlabach has a lot of confidence in what Georgia is this coming season when he thinks that the weakest room is one that has a potential Heisman candidate in it, or things changed after Trevor Etienne declared for the NFL draft, and maybe that's what it was. So I think it's one of those things. But this is what he had to say when he said that running backs were the weakness. As hard as it is to believe, the program that produced NFL running backs Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, and James Cook in recent years might have a question mark at the position going into the season. Nate Frazier returns after leading the team with 671 yards. As a freshman in 2024, Trevor Etienne, who had 631 yards and 9 touchdowns last season, left for the NFL. Injuries have hampered top backups Branson Robinson and Roderick Robinson II, who combined for only 29 carries last season. They're missing spring practice because of knee and ankle injuries, respectively. The Bulldogs also bring back third down back Cash Jones, Chauncey Bowens, Dwight Phillips Jr., and add freshman Bo Walker. Georgia only averaged 124.4 rushing yards in 2024, which ranked next to last in the SEC and was the worst mark in the Smart era. I talked about this last week. I talked about how Georgia is really harping on the running game in spring practice, that they took January and February to identify what the weaknesses of the 24 Georgia Bulldogs team were, and it was stopping the run and running the football. Yes, it was Georgia's worst year running the ball in a very long time, and it was by far the worst under Smart, and vice versa. They didn't do a good job stopping the run, but we're focusing on the running backs here. Like I said, I talked to Nate down in New Orleans ahead of the Sugar Bowl, and this is what he had to say. I just love this place, man. I love this school. I love this place. I love everything about it. I love the tradition. I love the culture. I love how hard our fans root for us and how diehard our fans are. It's just a great place to be, and it's a great place to play football. He also told me that he planned his celebration, the touchdown celebration that he did on his first score in the season opener against Clemson, where he bows. He does kind of the jazz hands deal. Sony Michel, Todd Gurley, a lot of Georgia running back greats have done before him. He did that immediately, and he likes being a part of this program, and he looks at that as a slight. I think it's funny. There's proof out there that these players are listening to what we are saying about them. They are listening. They're reading. They know what's being said about them. These are kids that, like I'm just a little bit older than them. They're guys that grew up in the social media age. They're guys that grew up in the technology age and the phone age. And they are looking at these things. Oscar Delp last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago at this point, told us I was listening to too much outside noise last season. I was listening to too much about what people were saying about me, whether that be good or bad, and it was a distraction for him. He felt that the entire offense was distracted at certain points throughout the season. Nate Frazier's looking at this, and he already wants to be great, and now that's just a little bit of fuel to the fire. So we kind of know the potential with him, or at least we think we know the potential with him. He showed flashes. I don't know if issue is the right way. A couple of fumbles is an issue, as finally I get the thing that was in my eye. There was, a couple fumbles is a problem, but was Georgia's leading rusher, had a few explosive plays, a couple of them coming in that season opener against Clemson, was in and out as the starter with Trevor Etienne being in and out in the lineup. And I think that a second year where now he's going through his first spring because he didn't enroll early a year ago. He hasn't even been at Georgia for a full calendar year. I think that improvement is to be expected, and he's definitely going to get more carries because, no, there is no clear RB2, and that's part of why it's being tabbed a weak link by guys like Mark Schlabach. It's a position of concern by a lot of people, who care about the program. Is it going to be Chauncey Bowens? That's kind of my guess right now, actually, as to who I think will be RB2. Is it going to be Dwight Phillips Jr.? How much is Cash Jones going to play? I think Cash Jones is going to play a good bit. I think he's still going to be a receiving back and a part of this offense. But we know he's not going to get a lot of carries, all right? Look at the statistics from 23 and 24 when he's a part of the offense. He doesn't get a lot of handoffs. Most of his production comes from the receiving game. And then there's a freshman, Bo Walker. Roderick Robinson and Branson Robinson are good running backs when they're on the field. I don't know if they will be. And I don't know what they'll be like after these injuries, especially not Branson Robinson, who's now dealt with 2 major injuries. So I don't know. I'm not counting them out, but I'm not necessarily counting them in as a reliable backup running back. Bo Walker, there's a lot of buzz around Bo Walker, true freshman, 3-star guy who they went out and got. Don't let the stars fool you. Lad McConkey, Javon Bullard, right? A couple of recent examples. Jordan Davis, guys that didn't have a high star rating and still turned out to be very good players and are good players in the NFL now, right? So Bo Walker, I don't know much about him. All I've seen is a couple of drills, and I really wasn't paying too much attention to the running back when I did get to see practice because I wanted to look at other things and get more knowledge about other things. But there's excitement about Bo Walker and how he's doing in spring practice so far. I do know for a fact Kirby wants him to lose weight. A trusted source told me Kirby said Bo Walker has too much weight on him and he needs to cut that. So there's definitely going to be growing pains with Bo there, and people are going to love that name Bo Walker when it's a combination of Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker. But there's a lot of truth to the fact that there's unknown with this running back room. I think they're talented players. And not to mention, Dylan Bell is going to get work at that position. He's getting work in the spring right now. I think he's going to get carries come fall. At this point, rewind back to 2023 when Dejan Edwards and Kendall Milton were dealing with injuries at the beginning of the season. Dylan Bell is who Georgia turned to with a lack of depth, partially because of a Branson Robinson injury. And there was an argument that he looked like Georgia's most dynamic back out of the backfield, could hit explosive plays, was smooth with the ball in his hands, almost seemed more natural as a running back if you ask me. Now, I know Dylan Bell has potential to make a lot of big plays in the passing game, even though he seemed to regress a little bit in 24. He is gearing up for a pretty versatile role in this Georgia offense. And look, I do think Nate Frazier has star potential, but so do the rest of these guys. They're still very good players. They just haven't played a lot. All right? Nate's the only guy on the team with 100 carries, and that's why there's an unknown there. I don't know if it's necessarily a weakness, though. I don't know about that part. So what do you think about it? Thanks for watching.